Welcome to our presentation, Saudi Arabia, Strategic Insights for Australian Business Expansion, presented by Group A. Our group members are Menna, Zizhou, Yuchen, Runxuan, and Zixuan. By applying international business theories and frameworks, we aim to assess the opportunities and challenges Australian firms may encounter. Saudi Arabia, as a key Middle Eastern economy, continues to expand its global influence through Vision 2030 and its 2025 BRICS membership, while maintaining a unique cultural environment shaped by Islamic governance and tribal affiliations. Our presentation will cover 5 key areas, starting with globalization, followed by economic development, culture, industry specialization, and trade policy. Then we invite Menna to begin with the first question.
Now, let's start from the first question. Saudi Arabia is a monarchical totalitarian state where power is highly centralized in the hands of the Al Saudi family. This political structure embodies deep-seated principles of collectivism, emphasizing loyalty to the family and tribe. The government operates through royal decrees and has an advisory body, the Shura Council, which is appointed by the king and lacks actual legislative power. Moreover, Saudi Arabia's political system is deeply rooted in Sharia law. This tightly integrated model of governance ensures political stability, but also restricts democratic participation and political freedoms. Next, Saudi Arabia's economic system can be described as a mixed economy, where the state has absolute control over key resources such as oil and natural gas. Characteristics of the command economy. Saudi Arabia is also trying to promote economic diversification and market liberalization, particularly under the Vision 2030 plan. Saudi is actively developing non-oil sectors such as finance, healthcare, and so on. Furthermore, globalization has had a profound impact on Saudi Arabia's political economy system. From a political perspective, globalization demands a higher level of policy transparency and international cooperation, propelling Saudi Arabia to somewhat improve its governance structure to meet the expectations of the international community and its younger population. Additionally, increased global cultural exchanges have contributed to social policy reforms, particularly regarding women's rights and social freedoms, which have become focal points of international attention. Lastly, although the Saudi political system is deeply rooted in religious traditions, the pressures of globalization require the Saudi government to find a balance between maintaining traditional values and adapting to modern political demands. Globalization has also significantly impacted Saudi Arabia's economic system. Competing in the global market has propelled the Saudi government to accelerate its economic diversification efforts to reduce dependence on oil. The Vision 2030 plan I mentioned before was specifically developed to address potential instabilities in the global oil market and changes in the future structure of international energy demand. Additionally, globalization has driven Saudi Arabia to open its markets and relax restrictions on foreign investments, especially in non-oil sectors. The government has implemented a series of new policies to encourage foreign investment, such as simplifying administrative procedures and offering tax incentives. Lastly, the competitive pressures of globalization have pressured the Saudi government to reform traditional economic management models, gradually introducing market mechanisms to enhance economic efficiency. This includes the privatization of state-owned enterprises, particularly in sectors like telecommunications, energy, and the adoption of more market-based economic policies. However, Saudi Arabia's legal system is a theocratic system based on Islamic Sharia law. This poses a series of challenges for Australian businesses accustomed to Common law or civil law system. Firstly, our criminal, civil, and commercial laws must align with Sharia, which more emphasizes moral behavior and social responsibilities. This affects operational models of Australian businesses. Secondly, contract validity and interpretation must adhere to Sharia. Traditional dispute resolution mechanisms might not be applicable. Hence, Australian businesses must adapt to solutions provided by religious courts, which can be more complex and unpredictable than international commercial arbitration. Finally, although Saudi Arabia has introduced some modern legal elements into its business and financial regulations to attract international investment, the basic legal framework is still based on Sharia law. Unlike some standards in the international legal environment, especially when it comes to intellectual property protection, this also means that foreign companies need to make detailed preparations before entering the market to protect their technology and brand. Well, that's all for question 1. Let's welcome Flora for the next question.
Let's move on to the second question about analyzing the level of economical and human development in Saudi Arabia and identify which elements it is most important for Australia companies planning to do business in Saudi Arabia. I will look at GNI PPP HDI from 3 aspects. The first being gross national income, that's GNI. It's about the level of economy and marketing in the future. Saudi Arabia's economy has proven to be doing remarkably well. In economy terms, we can see a gross national income per capita of more than 24,000 in 2023, which means that Saudi Arabia is a high-income country. Saudi Arabia is very dependent on oil, which means that if oil were to face risk, the Saudi Arabia economy would likely serve. The Vision 2030 diversification reform states that tourism can stimulate the economy and sustain development if oil resources are in risk. At the same time, because Saudi Arabia customers have good buying power, they provide strong access to high-end goods and services that Australia needs. The second is PPP. That means real purchase power and cost competitiveness. First, I want to mention the size of economy. As I mentioned before, Saudi Arabia is rich in economy terms. The market is rich and the purchasing power is high. We can see GDP in 2023 is $2 trillion and GDP per capita is close to $15,000. This shows that from the macro perspective of the government and from the perspective of public revenue per capita. If GNI or PPP, the real economic development of Saudi Arabia represents that Saudi Arabia is a very development economy. Okay, final, there is the Human Development Index, that's HDI, which refer to social development and the quality of the workforce. At the social level and at the level of the study itself, we can see that data show that Saudi Arabia has a high level of education and health. In terms of global exchange, the high proportion of young people and the level of global force participation of women provide their companies with attractive global options. On the part of Australia companies, Australia business interested are used to develop a well-trained focus workforce as well as social stable conducive to long-term investment. In the end, from my opinion, I think the Australia company were more focused on the Saudi Arabia economy development because, as I said, the short-term focus on economy development and the long-term, of course, we should care the human development, but the Australia company should earn. So the human development is supposed for the economic way. So my recommendation is Australia company should put economy development in the first place. Saudi Arabia rich resources just made the goal of Australian companies to focus on the economical development and research long-term cooperations. Okay, that's the third part.
Next, we focus on question 3, based on cultural analysis. Addressing the first sub-question, we assess the cultural distance between Saudi Arabia and Australia through 2 key frameworks. Firstly, Hofstede's cultural dimension theory highlights significant differences. Saudi Arabia scores high in power distance, reflecting centralized, hierarchical decision-making, while Australia demonstrates low PDI, favoring egalitarian leadership. Similarly, Saudi Arabia's collectivist culture emphasizes family and group loyalty, contrasting with Australia's strong individualism. Additionally, Ho's high and low context theory reveals contrasting communication styles. Saudi Arabia operates within high context culture, relying on implicit relationship-based communication. In contrast, Australia's low context culture emphasizes direct and explicit messaging. These differences underscore the challenges and opportunities in cross-cultural business interactions. In response to the second sub-question, we analyze the cultural convergence and divergence between Saudi Arabia and Australia. On the convergence side, globalization drives economic collaboration, exemplified by the Saudi Aramco-BHP partnership in mining and energy. These collaborations strengthen economic ties and promote shared management practices. Additionally, 8,000 Saudi students in Australia facilitates cross-cultural exchange and foster greater understanding of Western business norms. This educational link helps shape future Saudi business leaders. Infrastructure initiatives like Saudi's NEOM project engage Australian technology and construction firms, aligning professional standards and fostering innovation. Conversely, divergence persists in religion, governance, and social norms. Saudi Arabia's adherence to Islamic governance contrasts with Australia's secular democracy, influencing legislation and workplace policies. Differences in work week structures. Saudi Arabia from Sunday to Thursday and Australia from Monday to Friday pose logistical challenges. Additionally, gender workforce participation highlights disparities, with Saudi Arabia at 37% and Australia at 62%. This cultural divide underscores the need for adaptive strategies in cross-border business. This section highlights key cultural insights and emphasizes recommendations to enhance cross-cultural success between Saudi Arabia and Australia. Cultural analysis reveals distinct differences between the two nations. Saudi Arabia's high power distance and collectivism contrast with Australia's egalitarian and individualistic values. Communication styles also diverge, with Saudi Arabia's high context culture relying on implicit cues, while Australia's low context culture favors direct communication. To address these differences, we propose actionable recommendations. Cross-cultural training will equip employees to avoid misunderstanding. Flexible work policies can align operations with Saudi Arabia's Sunday to Thursday schedule. Expanding joint ventures will foster professional exchange and deepen economic ties. And diversity initiatives focused on increasing female workforce participation can drive inclusive growth. Finally, localized strategies that respect Saudi customs while integrating Western practices will support long-term success. By adopting these measures, a business can bridge cultural gaps and enhance operational efficiency in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's all for question 3. Let's welcome Renxuan for the next question.
Now let's turn to question 4. Which industry Saudi Arabia should specialize in when looking to trade with other countries? According to A. Adam Smith, B. David Richard. Which theory do you believe the government of Saudi Arabia should follow when engaging in international trade? Firstly, let's explore Adam Smith's theory of absolute advantage. According to Smith's theory, a country should specialize in producing goods it can produce more efficiently than other countries, and then trade with other nations to maximize wealth. For Saudi Arabia, the concept of absolute advantage is particularly applicable to its oil and gas industry. Saudi Arabia holds around 70% of the world's proven petroleum reserves, making it a dominant force in the global oil market. Oil and gas accounts for 40% of Saudi Arabia's GDP and 75% of its physical revenue. As a leading producer of petrochemical products globally, Saudi Arabia supplies about 7% of the world's petrochemical products. This gives Saudi Arabia a clear advantage in energy production and the petrochemical industry. Moreover, Saudi Arabia also holds an absolute advantage in religious tourism. It is the birthplace of Islam, and it has Mecca and Medina, the two holiest cities in Islam, attracting millions of Muslim pilgrims every year. Religious tourism is the country's second largest export and provides an important source of revenue. Additionally, Saudi Arabia is rich in gold, phosphate, and bauxite resources. Its abundant mineral wealth is estimated to be worth $2.5 trillion in 2090. Now, let's discuss David Richard's theory of comparative advantage. Richard believed that even if a country does not have an absolute advantage in the production of a certain good, it can still benefit from specializing in the production of goods where it has the lowest opportunity cost compared to other countries. Saudi Arabia possesses abundant solar and wind resources, making it well suited to develop renewable energy. Additionally, Saudi Arabia's strategic location between Asia, Africa, and Europe provides a comparative advantage in location and transportation, positioning it as a key global trade hub. The country also benefits from a young population with 70% under 35, coupled with high internet and smartphone penetration. This gives Saudi Arabia an edge in information technology and innovation, positioning it to lead in the digital economy. In tourism, Saudi Arabia offers natural attractions like Red Sea and desert, along with cultural and ecological tourism potential. Cities such as Ula and Diriyah, along with desert landscapes, can attract international tourists. So, which theory should Saudi Arabia follow in international trade? While both theories have metrics, David Richard's comparative advantage aligns better with Saudi Arabia's future strategy. First, economic diversification. Saudi Arabia's economy is highly reliant on oil, making it vulnerable to price fluctuations. By focusing on sectors with lower opportunity cost, the country can reduce oil dependency and diversify its economy, supporting Vision 2030. Second, optimizing resources. Although Saudi Arabia has absolute advantages in oil and religious tourism, relying solely on these sectors risks ignoring other opportunities. By reallocating resources to cost-effective, high-value industries, Saudi Arabia can boost trade. Third, global competition flexibility. Given global competition in oil, Saudi Arabia must diversify its advantages. Richer reserves enable flexible resource allocation to industry with higher returns and less global competition. Fourth, sustainable development. Over-reliance on oil risks instability and the environment. Developing industries like renewable energy and the digital economy will ensure sustainable growth. Last, harnessing the demographic dividend. With 70% of its population under 35, Saudi Arabia can capitalize on its young workforce by focusing on labor and technology-intensive sectors like IT, creating jobs and boosting productivity.
Hi, this is Tiffany, and today I will be discussing Saudi Arabia's trade policies, instruments, and international trade series they align with. Specifically, I will focus on 3 areas: protective tariffs, zero tariff policies, and trade agreements impacting Saudi Arabia and Australia. Let's start with protective tariffs. These are taxes imposed on imported goods to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. In Saudi Arabia, protective tariffs are used in sectors like steel and aluminum. For example, the government imposes tariffs on certain imported steel products to shield local manufacturers and support their growth, especially within the construction and oil industries. This approach aligns with the Infant Industry Agreements, which suggests that emerging industries in developing economies need temporary protection from global competition until they are mature enough to compete independently. By implementing tariffs, Saudi Arabia ensures its industry can grow without being overwhelmed by foreign products. Next, let's explore zero tariff policies, which are designed to remove trade barriers and promote free trade between nations. A prime example is Saudi Arabia's membership in GCC, which is in short of Gulf Cooperation Council. Within this regional bloc, member states enjoy zero tariffs on most goods traded among them. This has been particularly effective in industries like petroleum and petrochemicals, where Saudi Arabia has a competitive advantage. This strategy supports David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage, which argues that countries should specialize in producing goods while they have the greatest efficiency and trade for other products. Saudi Arabia excels in energy production, so eliminating tariffs within the GCC enhances its ability to export these goods and strengthen its economic ties with neighboring countries. Lastly, let's look at Saudi Arabia's trade relationship with Australia. Although there is no direct free trade agreement between the two nations, both countries collaborate through the World Trade Organization framework. For example, Saudi Arabia imports Australian beefs and grains, while Australia sources petrochemical products from Saudi Arabia. This mutually beneficial relationship reflects elements of the new trade theory, which emphasizes economies of scale and the benefits of global competition to diversify markets and industries. While the absence of a formal trade agreement limits some opportunities, the existing cooperation showcases the potential for deeper economic ties, especially as both nations seek to expand their trade horizons. To wrap up, we found that globalization has significantly shaped Saudi Arabia's political economy by integrating it into global energy markets but also exposing it to fluctuating oil prices. Culturally, its traditions remain distinct from Australians, but increasing globalization is narrowing some differences. Trade-wise, Saudi Arabia's focus is on petrochemicals, aligns with Ricardo's comparative advantage theory. While its protective tariffs support local industries, these insights show Saudi Arabia as a country of both significant opportunities and challenges for Australian businesses. Thank you for listening. We hope this presentation helps you better understand the strategic choices between Saudi Arabia's trade policies. Bye.